Good morning, this is the. Hi Jessica. Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting. Present is my member, Davida Russell, Council Davida Russell, and Vice Chair Jim Posh is absent, excused, and I'm Gail Larson, the chair. We are waiting on Colette Klingscale, Director of Public Works. I don't know what to do.
You have anything else on the agenda?
It's all her. All her.
Where's this? Is her office near here?
Yeah, it's right over there.
You want me to go?
Yes, please. Councilor Russell's gonna check on Director Smithfield. So bear with us for a moment, please.
So this summer, that could come to 150 additional. So, because they're charging the same as the water. Right. So, that's my issue.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, do we have any indication if tomorrow is gonna be the mayor's office hearing or
As far as the schedules, yeah, because the schedule is projecting that, so
10 o'clock tomorrow? In council?
in council.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there was some overlap with Sask.
Sesk is being moved to next Tuesday,
Oh, okay.
purportedly. Andy Boateng, the sustainability coordinator, is in the mayor's office, so his vote will be presented ideally along with the mayor's office.
She's coming. How's everybody?
Good, how are you?
Good. How's everybody over this side? Good?
Hanging in. We got hanging in.
Yeah, I know.
I think you guys would feel free to come and sit up at the table because apparently this is our attendance, so we just need to leave a chair for Director Klingscale. Yeah. I don't have any birthday cake or anything.
I have to leave at 10:45.
Good morning, how are you? Good to see you as well. Invited people, hi, good morning, I've invited people to the table. Director Klingscale just joined us because each of them wants to speak a little bit on a topic or two, so that's why they're sitting at the table, Director Klingscale.
Okay.
The first thing on the agenda is to talk about the pricing for buying another garbage bin. And I am raising this because I've been asked questions about the quarterly billing that residential properties would be charged if they did order and put out an extra bin purchased from the city for $50. I'd like to know the basis for this added fee, and per a member of the Refuse and Recycling Task Force, they talked about not wanting to overburden the residents with extra fees on the refuse plan, so the task force had recommended that there should not be any subscription quarterly fees for an additional container. I'd like to talk about that, and Susan Efremson's here, she was on that task force, so I wanna listen to what she recalls about how that discussion went during the task force meeting.
Sure.
So after the new system was put into place, some of the homeowners that needed more than 2 cans tried to get them, and it was understood, and with the task force as well, that in addition to the first and second can, or the 1 can of each, that any additional cans would be the cost of the homeowner, but that there would be no subscription fee added on, no after that point. And when they tried to get a third can for large families, they weren't able to do that, so they would try putting it out. And there was this whole back and forth where they couldn't get it taken. So I came to the city after a while and suggested that this is a problem that has an easy solution. Either you let them buy the third can or you let them put out their own. And I was promised an answer. I never got one. And for weeks, this kind of went back and forth. They did start picking them up and then they stopped. And then they said, okay, so we were in it. So after all of this runaround, we were initially told the residents were not permitted to purchase the third can, and then when we pushed to find out what regulation prohibited this or why not, because the answers we had been getting were contradictory, eventually we were told that we could, however, that they'd have to sign a form acknowledging that there would be this additional landfill fee. And some residents signed this, purely out of desperation. Because what else were you supposed to do with your refuse if not get it picked up by the city? So as a member of the Refuse and Recycling Task Force, I can really attest to the idea that subscription fees were very much repudiated. We understood that the landfill fee that was current at the time would not be sufficient due to the market changes. I can go into that if you need me to, but it had to do with changes in how China was doing things and contracts with the departments that we work with Kimball and county contracts. However, the idea of sticking an extra fee to the taxpayer was something that we kind of all abhorred. Our philosophy was that part of our motivation with the change to the new method was to make things easier for taxpayers. We already have these high levels of taxes, and granted, that's the schools. But as a result, we have people that are overburdened by taxes and very much need their city services to shine. And this was an area where we could do that. We talked about a whole bunch of different areas like that. For example, if we would have outsourced it, you have these other companies that come by, and if things fall off and fly off, they have no inspiration or no motivation to go and pick it up and leave our streets clean. But if we're doing our work, if we keep it in-house, it's our city, it stays beautiful. We care about our city. So one of our motivations of keeping it in-house was this idea that we, the citizens, would get better services. And that the city really has a responsibility to its residents to provide this. And this was an area where we could shine. So as we went through the options, forgive me, I'm a little slow on it. So along the same lines, we talked about how we would handle bulk. So there were all these big discussions about, well, if someone had to put out a couch, did they really need to wrap it in plastic, or was this an additional burden to the homeowner? And in fact, we decided that, yeah, you really did, because of the health concerns and bacteria, and also if it got saturated with water, the extra weight so we decided that was something that we had to do, but we really looked at a whole bunch of these aspects in terms of how do we unburden our taxpayer? How do we make trash easy? We just want to throw away our stuff. We don't want to have it be a big deal. And we talked about what about families that have ADD kids not being able to handle lots of restrictions or extra things, or people with health concerns. And I know that we do have like the curbside, like for families that need, the department actually does come and bring the containers down for them. So we really looked at all of this in that venue. And we considered, one of the things that we considered was, with the bulk pickup, what it would mean if we limited it to once a month. And we actually said no to that, because what happens if a family has gets a new dining room set, and we said, okay, you could put out 4 things. So does that mean you get a new dining room set? It's not the week that they're picking up, so now you could put out a table, your old table, and 2 of your chairs, but you have to leave the other 4 chairs for a month from now. And we kind of said that just didn't work. And Tony Torres was there, and we were talking about, he said there wasn't even a need to do it once a month. The way things worked were pretty much working, that, you know, anytime somebody had extra bulk, they should be able to put it out, and get it taken. And what that stopped from happening was this idea that they would suddenly on one day have to go pick up a whole bunch of bulk. It actually spread out better. So now we've got this color-coded thing, and again, burdening the citizens with trying to figure out, when can I put out my, you know. So it was, you know, along those.
But by doing that, they backed off on the capacity that was required for bulk pickup. So this equipment that we have is the one claw truck, or do we have one claw truck to do bulk pickup throughout the city? And so I think that we can all of us adjust, and the calendar they put out was really helpful. So I'm trying to figure out
So on that, I just get a lot of people saying, when, what, huh?
yeah.
You know, and things get left in the house. I mean, it's
And bulk was always a problem.
And will continue to be, right?
Yeah, bulk has always been a problem. That was one of the reasons that we put in the 4 items we had, as we discussed in the task force. Landlords evicting folks, putting out
that was always a
total
problem.
tree lawns of trash, and bulk
Right.
has always been a problem. We were never able to keep up with bulk the way we were collecting it prior to automation.
So I was speaking, you know, for the average homeowner who's replacing a couch, as opposed to, you know, what you're, we spent a lot of time on the problem of evictions and total cleanup. So that was, you know, but we're not really separating that in our process here. But that not being the focus of this, the focus being how to help the basic homeowner, not, okay. So when it came to subscription pricing, which is the citizens being billed based on the number of cans that they ordered, we rejected in many of our discussions. And whether it was explicit in our report or just as the backdrop, we were assured by the city manager, Tanisha Briley, when she spoke to us, that the general funds would always subsidize the department. That has changed. And that Cleveland Heights would never stick it to the residents on a fee-for-service basis, that it would always be an aggregate. This is what taxes and this is how taxes in cities, it's what our taxes are for, city services. So the understanding from the task force was therefore that those who required more containers would be able to purchase them, but it would remain as, the fees would remain as an aggregate. Now, after we submitted our recommendations, it went to a team of experts who then looked into our recommendations. And basically, they had very high praise for the report. They said it was very thorough. I think we overshot our timeline by several months because we really did want to get it right. But they favored something called enterprise pricing, which is really a fancy word that says bill the taxpayers for the whole amount. It's kind of a sock it to them plan that we were assured would never happen. It was the promise of the city, and this is what our taxes are for. I'm just repeating myself. But at the time, our landfill fees were roughly $11.50, and we knew that because of the changes in the market and the changes in these contracts and all of that, it would go up. And we had imagined it would go up somewhere between $14 and $18 per household. But then COVID happened and the city lost funding from its recreational department. And somewhere in the shadows of COVID, they passed an incremental increase, council passed an incremental increase, which is kind of sneaky. Because what they did was they raised it, I don't have the numbers, but they raised it a certain amount, and then every year or two, they're gonna keep going up and up and up and up and up. So we imagined $18 being the top amount that we would get assessed, and now they're going up to 21, 24. I don't even know what the top amount is, but it's every few years. So on the one hand, it's more gentle to the taxpayer. On the other hand, it's already in the law, and what is it now?
Landfill, $51.60.
And that's per quarter though, right?
That's per
That's per
quarter.
quarter.
Currently, it's $17.20 per month with an 80 cents capital charge.
And how far is it going up?
It goes up over a period of 10 years. That legislation was passed at the same time the legislation was passed for automation. And it goes up, the high end of that is $19.32 at year 10.
I thought it was higher. Okay.
And then it's revisited at year 10?
Yes.
You good? Cause
Okay.
Jessica would like to say something as well.
Okay, so, well, where I was gonna go with this is, so our recommendation was that this portion of it, the it should be evenly distributed among the households and shared with the general funds. So now you've got large families that need that extra one, and are we really saying to them, you're not welcome, you need to pay extra? Are we really not supporting our large families? That's part of what this comes down to. Cause it just adds an extra burden on them that really should already have been included, meaning at the time that they decided these were going to be the extra fees that were, So at the time when we said these were the fees that were going to be assessed, right? They were looking at the amount of garbage that was being produced by the city. So why is it that these larger families should now have to have an extra fee when they're still producing the same amount of garbage that they were when these fees were assessed? And we heard somebody say, well, we have no choice but to do this, but South Euclid puts no limits on how many cans can be ordered through Kimball and has no extra landfill fee. Lakewood can use residents' own cans in addition to the one issued by the city with no extra landfill fee. Mayfield Heights can use residents' own cans and there's no extra landfill fee. The city disclaims liability for any damage done to personal cans, which is an option. I don't understand why we have not, why we've kind of eschewed that. And University Heights has a different pickup system, but again, no extra fees. So levying, one second. Okay, so levying these fees, it doesn't accurately, you end up with this, okay, so for example, me, I ordered 2 cans. I almost never use that second can. I used it when my husband's father died, when my father died, and all the family came in. That's when I needed that set. So if you're assessing how much garbage I use, we used it, I still have one more grandparent, there's still one more grandparent. But when they died and all the family came in, we produced more garbage that week. And I wanted to be responsible, so I ordered the extra bin. Would I now get charged an extra fee based on that? I had a neighbor complain to me that she lives on Maple, she lives in a duplex, and she and her tenant use the same cans, yet she's being billed for an extra set of cans for the other household. Again, is this is this accurate? And then what about apartment dwellers? Like, they can put as much garbage as they want into, their cans in their apartments, but no, it's the homeowners that are gonna get stuck with this extra fee if they produce extra garbage. And there's this real uneven sense of, is it really extra usage? And then if someone didn't want to buy it, what are their options?
Susan, I'm gonna move on to Jessica if it's okay, because I think you made some very valid points. Is it okay?
Jessica gotta leave it.
No, I understand, just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm satisfied that I got through enough of the points.
So Jessica Cohen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just
Thank you.
not here in my formal role as a city, just a citizen who's talked to a lot of my neighbors. And I think that a lot of the points that Susan made are very important. But the main thing I want to convey is that the city has, without any sort of accountability or transparency, informed citizens who are seeking a third can after not providing transparency around not using their own personal can as a third can when that extra refuse arrives, if it's not a regular or if it is regular, have said that they will levy this fee. If we play out the scenario funding wise as its impact on the city budget in its multi-million-dollar totality, we're talking about a $200 annual fee per family, presuming single family. That could be a lot for a single family that has already the tax burden of living in Cleveland Heights. However, if you play that out, let's say we have 50 residents requesting a third can. Let's say we have 100 for easy math because I don't do math very well. 100. We're talking about $2,000 extra dollars for the city. That is easily absorbable into the city budget. And even if we were doing 200 families across the city that need a third can, that want to order one on a regular basis, we're talking about thousands of dollars, which is minimal to the city on a multi-million-dollar basis, where for a resident, $200 annual fee is something that means something to them and frankly undermines the whole premise that refuse is like the foundation of municipal services that should be provided. That is like the streets and garbage are the two things that really the city is, should be responsible for based on the tax burden that we have. So I wanted to point that out because I do think that this emphasis on charging residents is misplaced. I would also like council to look into the regulatory/ordinance process of who is responsible and who has accountability and transparency on this. I think that's important because there is no understanding by residents of how this is happening. I don't fully understand, and I went back into the ordinance and I happen to be a regulatory lawyer, so I guess that's saying something. And I also would like to point out and just double click on what Susan said, that as far as we can see, no other municipality is charging for extra refuse based on use. And frankly, you wouldn't even know, even if somebody ordered a third can, you have no idea. The city has no idea if somebody's using that every week or if they're using that once a year and are having that out of convenience. And so with all those points, I really appreciate the council looking into this. I do think it's a pain point for residents that's unnecessary. And it's a shame that there has to be so much time and effort put into this, but I do think the clarification and fuller understanding of this would be much appreciated by many of the families who are trying to figure out how to get their garbage from their house to the right place with the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Jessica and Susan. Director Clinkscale, for one thing, I did not get a notice that I had the opportunity to buy a second can, so I'm wondering how that program was rolled out and what the timelines are for what you're looking at for starting to charge for that quarterly increment?
So it's a lot to unpack.
Yes, I understand.
So if I could start with some of the things that Susan brought up because she was on the task force.
Yep.
And so was Councilwoman Russell on the task force. If you recall, Susan, the whole reason that we offered a second card is because you brought up specifically in the meeting, because everyone was just supposed to get one card, one refuse card and one recycling card. And Susan made the comment during the refuse task force meetings that because there were large families in her neighborhood, could they get one extra cart? And that's how the one extra cart came about. It was not multiple carts. It was just one additional cart. And that's how it came up, based on Susan advocating for those families with larger carts. Because the whole premise with switching to automation was to reduce the amount of trash that's being produced and increase the amount of recycling. So of course, with recycling carts being introduced, naturally, we expect people, just for sustainability reasons, to start recycling and reduce the amount of garbage that goes to landfills. So that was the whole kind of premise behind automation. And so I don't really know where you got the multiple carts, but it was the one additional cart that we brought up. And when we rolled this out, we even requested that anyone that had a cart, that they just keep it in their backyard and use it and not put it on the curb. If they didn't want it anymore, they could put it out and tag it with a note saying, get rid of it. They didn't want it. And we were not collecting additional carts. And we did have some inquiries about that in certain neighborhoods. But we were only gonna collect one cart. So of course, you guys know, after the pandemic, with hiring and capacity, we hired additional refuse truck operators, and they were picking up the additional carts. And the way, the additional non-city carts, it was always, we were only gonna pick up city issued carts. We were never intended, when we switched to automation, to pick up personal carts. So the way it came to my attention is because some of the homeowners that had followed the rules and what have you start saying, why are you guys picking up carts that are non-city carts? I thought we were not going to pick up carts. So we started looking into it further. We started finding that there were maybe in some residents, 5-6 carts on the lawn. And we never intended for that to happen. And so in addition to it being a sustainability issue with us wanting to reduce the amount of trash that goes to landfill and increase the amount of recycling, it's also an equity issue because I have folks that produce very little trash, folks that have smaller carts, that pay that $17.60 like everybody else. So to your question, to get one additional cart, there would be no charge to you for that one additional cart. Now, I will say and apologize that the person that kind of was over issuing the carts did have the residents sign that they would be charged an additional unit, and he should not have done that. That was just internal discussion that we had. His form should have just brought to the attention of the person getting the third cart that we were looking at the system and there may be an additional charge, because we did not want somebody to get a third cart and then all of a sudden we increase the rates and then we're telling them, well, you got to pay an additional fee or whatever that fee is. It may not be an additional unit, whatever the fee is. And they had no knowledge of there may be a charge attached to it. So that $51.50, whatever that note said was incorrect, and that's not the case because, of course, we can't increase the rates in the Public Works Department. That can only be done by City Council. So that was incorrect with him stating on that form that there would be an additional unit charge. And also, one of the things that Susan brought up was about duplexes. Even prior to automation, two-family houses always paid for both units. That was not a new fee that was implemented once we did automation. They always paid a fee for downstairs, upstairs. If there were 4 family, they always paid an additional fee. I discussed the fact that at the time we switched to automation, we always said we would only collect city carts. There would only be one additional cart. And as Susan indicated, we did discuss pay as you throw, where the more trash you put out, the more money that you paid, the more fee that you paid. And we shied away from that. We just wanted to keep that flat fee and only up to 2 carts. But now it has evolved into something a lot more. And in addition to the regular trash that we pick up, we do give extra services to certain neighborhoods during religious holidays. We put a dumpster over there. We provide additional pickup that we're not providing throughout the city because we recognize that for religious reasons, some folks do have additional trash that they put out. So one garbage cart is 96 gallons. It could probably fit 5 of those white trash bags in it. So 2 carts, you're talking about 10 of those, minimum 10. And if you recycle, you should be reducing the amount of garbage that you're putting out. And I noticed that some people, they have a lot of trash out, but then the recycling cart is not out. So we want to, whatever we could do to try to educate people on recycling, the correct way to recycle, to reduce the amount of trash that goes to the landfill, we're willing to do that. We're willing to, because our goal is not to increase what goes to the landfill. Our goal is to reduce what goes to the landfill and have some sense of equity for the person that has the smaller cart that put out trash every week. And we have some residents that only put out a trash cart maybe once a month. They're recycling everything. They're taking they're composting. They're taking their light bulbs and their batteries to Home Depot. I mean, they put out maybe that refuse cart once a month, and they're still getting charged $17.20 per month. So there has to be some equity involved in the way that we charge. And one last thing, one of the things that you asked was about the extra bin. An extra bin, we charge $58, but with the shipping that we receive, it actually costs the city $61.50. Because that fee has gone up, but we have not increased the fee.
Director Clinkscale, so are you implementing are you saying that you're not going to implement the quarterly
We're
subscription
not,
fee?
right now, that's just something that's under discussion. I think that you may recall in other meetings, I've talked about this, especially as I saw more and more complaints coming about it, that this was something that we needed to revisit. Because now we're talking about allowing anybody that wants a third cart, now is it gonna be a fourth cart? Now we're gonna be doing this throughout the city because you have to offer it to everybody. Now you're talking about we need an additional garbage truck. Are you talking about we need additional staff in order to meet those requirements? So it deserves a further discussion, and to remedy the problem, the reason we allowed folks to buy the additional third cart was to remedy the immediate problem, but letting folks know that there may be an additional fee associated with putting out additional trash.
So if that quarterly billing is something that you recommend, council will have a chance to vote on it.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, I've been looking at the status of the refuse account. It's Refuse Fund 605, and looking at, do you look at how that's being affected by revenues coming in for what's collected and then expenses going out?
Yes, I do.
I figured you did. So those are the kind of questions that will probably come up, should we?
And right now, because, when we collected water, when we actually were the water provider for our city,
Yeah.
we had a great collection too, in that we were able to disconnect water to collect everything on a customer may have owed on their water bill, local sewer, and their trash. We don't have that collection tool anymore. And we're finding that some folks that were requesting a third cart, they may have owed the city $1,000 for it. They may not have paid refuse the whole year. So all those things that, we're not, in a lot of cases, we're not collecting what we're billing because people are not just paying their bill. And the only collection tool that we currently have is to assess property taxes. And that's once a year in September. We don't get the money till the following year.
I remember we discussed that as a problem that was gonna come up because of what the water did.
So all those things have to be taken into consideration, and so we would probably have to do another rate study, because we did a rate study when we arrived at these
Yes.
rates. And factor in what's additional equipment going to cost? What's additional capacity will the city have to generate in order to pick up additional garbage? Because once you say you can get a third cart, anybody who wants a third cart can get a third cart, and we have to be able to meet that.
And you'll be collecting that data on in terms of how many third carts are out there when you.
Right now, it's very limited,
Is
the
it?
third carts, because as I said, we did that to try to deal with an immediate problem.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we've even offered to the entire community, because most of the community, those 2 garbage cans are sufficient.
Yeah.
So we're not getting a lot of complaints about the garbage. But once you say you can get a third cart, folks are gonna want a third cart,
So the second card is free?
Yeah, the second card, I mean, they just have to pay for the cart, but there's no
Upfront.
cost associated, there's no monthly fee associated with it.
Okay.
And there's, to be clear, there's no monthly fee associated with the third one at this time.
At this time, no, there is not.
That's what you're considering. So here's what I'm still unclear on. Take the Schwartz family, I'm making them up. So they have 10 kids and they have 16 bags of garbage on a regular basis. But they had 16 bags of garbage before. They still have their 16 bags of garbage. So the amount of garbage really hasn't changed. We have the added advantage that if they have the containers, that the guy doesn't have to get out of his truck and pick up 16 bags like he used to. So yes, it might take a little more time to do this once and then do it again and yes, do it a third time. But I'm not seeing this grand increase to the city for that.
But Susan, if you recall, the whole premise behind recycling would be that family would no longer produce 16 bags of trash. Now they would produce more recycling and reduce the amount of trash.
So I would absolutely support more education on recycling, that certainly. But
Susan, I think your question is, let's include the premise that the family is recycling and they just literally produce this 16 hypothetical bags of garbage, and they did that before automation and now they're doing that after automation. So I guess the question is, maybe the presumption that the overall amount of garbage is increasing is not correct. We are just having to cabin it in a third can as opposed to having it all on the street.
and to be
But when we did the analysis based on trash reducing and recycling increasing.
So
and citywide has recycling not increased?
Citywide, that's why we have folks that they don't even need an additional cart, they're recycling.
Recycling has increased then.
Yeah, recycling has increased.
So overall across the city it has,
Recycling has
but
increased.
families that are struggling with a large number of kids, maybe it's challenging for them. And again, we talked about not overburdening, but again, I would support a educational effort.
Susan, I'm
I
gonna
do not remember though any limit of the number of carts. I mean, it could be just how you and I heard
And it
the
was
same-
you
But it-
you were the one that advocated for it.
for
It
the
said
extra,
we have large
right, for the extra cart, right, because we do have the large families in our community, I'm sure the Catholic community also. But I don't remember discussing a limit, it could just be different impressions taken away from the same discussion.
I'm gonna have to move on,
Okay,
because I do have 4 other topics that I've got Director Kingskill's time today and I just need to cherish it.
understood, could I just respond to what she said about equity? If the city is actually paying, if our tax dollars are going towards this and it's coming from the general funds, then the equity issue kind of falls away because then you're looking at it as an aggregate again. And that
It doesn't fall away for the person that only puts out a recycling cart every week.
Well, the idea would be that the city was actually paying, like it used to be, where the city was paying a percentage of that, and then that fee remained lower. So it would remain lower across the board,
Okay,
I would think.
yeah, I wanna move on because it sounds like Director Kingskill has this on her future agenda for relooking at this and bringing it to council. So keep your eye out if that materializes in the next year or so, Director Kingskill.
And let us know how we can engage the community on recycling.
So maybe we should have a conversation on that, because I think that could go maybe through the schools
Okay, that would be
as well.
great.
Super, thank you very much, Susan. I just wanna let you know, Director Kingskill, that we did have a discussion with Adam Fleischer at my last meeting about the business recycling. And he as the owner of Wine Spot, we had a good discussion, so we've spoken about restoring the recycling program to Cleveland Heights business, you and I talked about it last year, but at this time, we don't have the capacity because we have increased recycling throughout the city. I'm just wondering if there's anything, haven't had a chance to really scrutinize the climate and resilience plan, and maybe John could give us an update on that, if there's any talk about improving, adding back in the business recycling program as a result of the climate and resilience plan that they're doing. Have you been working with the?
I do know that our sustainability manager, Andy Butang, just received a grant to put 2 dumpsters out, and I can't recall exactly where those dumpsters are gonna be, just to kind of evaluate it. That type of recycling. I can say that during the pandemic, when we eliminated business recycling, we didn't actually just stop taking recycling. What we did was we instituted a charge because of what we were paying for recycling. So if a business owner wanted to continue recycling, they had the opportunity to continue recycling, but they would pay according to the size of the dumpster that they had. So a lot of business owners elected not to pay. And at the time, you guys may recall, we were paying a lot to recycle. Our recycling had doubled, We were at the point that we were paying I wanna say it was almost $100, and don't quote me on it, but it was something astronomical that we were paying. So we didn't say you can't recycle, we just said if you wanna continue recycling, it's gonna cost you $20 a month for this size dumpster, or $40 per month for this size dumpster. And a lot of the business owners just elected at that time that they didn't want to pay the fee, and their dumpsters were removed.
So what's happened is, as a result, they stopped paying the fee.
And the dumpsters were removed.
Yeah, the dumpsters were removed, and a lot of the businesses are just throwing everything, cardboard, glass, paper,
And which we don't want that either.
into the trash bins. And so I know that a lot of businesses use Kimball or somebody else, right? They don't have
because
city service.
because all of those private haulers, they also offer recycling, but they just have to pay for it, So if they have Kimball, they could recycle if they wanted to, but they just have to pay a fee to recycle.
Is there anything in the plan that talks about the recycling for businesses?
I don't remember it being in there.
So it's good to
140
hear
pages.
that Coordinator Boateng, Coordinator Boateng is looking at grants and has identified.
Yeah, well, we're gonna put a couple of trial dumpsters to see how it works, because we have some concerns, of course, with vandalism.
Yeah.
And if we start recycling, we just have to look at the cost of recycling, because a lot of businesses recycle cardboard, and we get paid for cardboard. That reduces our bill every month. But then there are not a lot of places that recycle glass, so we pay for glass. So we'd have to balance that to see what does it cost the city if we were to reintroduce recycling for our business owners? Are we gonna collect enough from cardboard to pay for recycling glass and the additional capacity that may come with now picking up those dumpsters?
He's got, they have a company that has provided 2 bins behind Stone Oven, behind that complex. And one of them is for cardboard and one is for paper. They aren't recycling glass, which of course the Wine Spot would use a lot of, right? And maybe there's an opportunity to ask him, Andy Fleischer, to track the kind of volume, because they're sharing it along that retail line. They're sharing it, and the businesses go over there and put their cardboard in and they're dumped on a weekly basis. He said that's usually what takes care of what's in there in this bin, but I don't know, it's just something to
That would be good to know.
Yeah, so would it be helpful if I reach out to him and actually ask him to do some research for us?
Why don't we try to engage Andy
Okay,
you know, like to meet with him.
okay. You and
I think that would be good. Mhm.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
And Gail, may I just ask in that conversation that there's a constant reminder that the pricing is incredibly fluctuating for each product, and that we can't go to multi-year contracts on recycling. It doesn't work for anybody. And just keep emphasizing that. This month's prices, this quarter's prices.
And who knows what happens
Yeah, we'd have to look
in
at
the
the,
future.
we'd have to look at the overall, like it's been good this year that we have not expended a lot of funding for recycling like we have in the past. At one point, we were spending $200,000 a year to recycle, and that bill has gone down. But as John indicated, that market changes. Next year, who knows what it's gonna be, but we would have to still sign a long-term agreement with the recycler. And we would almost be just hedging our bet that, you know, recycling would stay low. The cost to recycle would stay low. But I can tell you right off the top of my head that it's expensive to recycle glass because not a lot of folks recycle glass.
And then, of course, the technology may change though as well. Maybe we'll see something innovative come up that will change up. The future is beyond our control, but I appreciate offering to keep looking at that Director Klingscale, I really do. And this is Betsy Ferguson, in case you don't know her. She's the one who was asked about why we can't do a summer discount on a quarterly city sewer bill, and I'm looking at that too, and is what about those folks that have vegetable gardens who in this drought had to use a lot of water? Do you have a vegetable garden, Betsy?
I have a flower garden.
Okay, so if we're looking at climate change affecting the kind of weather that we have during the summer and into September, October, is there any way that we can take a look at that? I know the consent decree allows the city council to set those rates, but I don't wanna change that and add something like that in without having input from your department.
Yeah, we would have to, one of the things that we talked about prior to receiving the funding for the American Rescue Act is we were to perform a rate study to determine how we would fund all these sewer repairs that we had to do in the future.
Mhm.
But because we were fortunate enough to get that windfall, that actually delayed the city increasing rates for like a 5-year period.
Yeah.
But now since, that goes away after this year, we are going to have to go back and complete that rate study. And just so you know, the city has always charged local sewer based on water consumption forever. That was the easiest way to try to bill it. When we were the when we were the representative for the sewer district, we actually did the discount because we billed according to water consumption. So, and the whole premise behind the sewer district offering the summer sprinkling rate is because based on their model and what they bill for, they are not processing that additional water. So they are able to
That's right.
reduce,
And
because they're not treating that.
Neither is Cleveland Heights.
But, right, neither is Cleveland Heights, but the local sewer for Cleveland Heights was never based on a premise of treating any water or anything. It was just a way to bill in order to generate the funding that was necessary to maintain the sewer system.
Right.
Mhm.
I understand. So basically, the idea was that using water as a proxy, you could assess each household's sewer maintenance fee. But unfortunately, water usage is not a good measure for that, because when we have a summer like we did this year, people who watered their lawns and their gardens used enormous amounts of water that never had anything to do with the sewer at all. It went into the land. It never touched the sewer. So being charged for water that never had anything to do with the sewer is an inappropriate charge. It's like using my cell phone bill as the basis for determining what the water sewer rate should be, okay?
And I'm not disputing that,
Okay,
okay?
so
I'm not disputing that.
all right, so and I understand that this was the way that you guys went about it. This was sort of what you had, but the county recognizes that it is a false premise. And that's why they have a summer sprinkling bill. They recognize that water does not go into the sewer system, and so people who use water for other purposes, like their gardens and their yards, should not be charged for it.
You mean the district, not the county.
The district, yes, the district. And so the district makes an adjustment based on your use in the other in the off months, which are it's the winter. And if you look at my bill right here, you'll see that my use, I'm one person in a household, is very minimal during the other months, okay? But instead, I'm paying $150 more this year to pay off the sewer maintenance, okay? Than I should be paying because I'm not using any more in the summer of the sewer lines than I am in the other months.
And I'm not disputing that.
Okay,
But it is what it is right now.
I
It is
understand.
based on a local charge. And
Right.
during the rate increase, if the city wants to have that as a factor when we look at the rate, you know, what we would charge for rates over the next 5-year period,
Yeah.
then we can look at that. But the city has to also keep in mind that if we decide that we're going to offer the summer sprinkler discount, that may mean higher prices for the overall
right,
fee.
yeah,
Because and I don't have to look at it because I don't, you know, I used to be the utilities commissioner, so I'm very aware of what you're saying. That's why I say I'm not disputing it.
okay,
But because at the end of the day, if we have to have so many $1 million to fund our system under our consent decree, that's the amount of money that we have to have. And whatever rate that we come up with, that's the rate it has to be. And if we want to factor into a summer sprinkling discount, at the end of the day, we still have to raise that $20 million or that $5 million per year. And that will mean overall increase rates in order to accomplish that.
right.
So when you do the analysis after the 5th year or before the 5th year runs out, do you have algorithms or data analysis scenarios where if you decided to plug into, like find out from the sewer district how many people actually have a summer sprinkler and say, is that possible?
We don't do the rate analysis internally. That's actually done by an engineering firm. If you guys remember Black and Veatch that presented before you guys a couple years ago when we had started before we knew about the American Rescue Act and we were trying to determine how we were going to fund the repairs that we needed, we had engaged Black and Veatch in a study to establish what the 5-year period would be.
Okay.
So we would still do that because they take a number of things into account. Cost of living, population growth, all those things. And those records would be available through the sewer district.
So you would have access to the sewer district data?
We could get access to
Yeah,
the sewer
okay.
district data.
Okay, Betsy?
Yeah, so I guess what you're asking, if I understand it, is what percentage of Cleveland Heights households use the sewer district sprinkling program to get a concept of who might want to use this sprinkling
right.
program should it go into effect, is that
Right, they would not only look at the number of households that are currently participating, but they would also look at their usage.
Okay,
So if I'm a higher user of water,
yeah,
my sprinkling discount is based on the amount of water that I use during those non-summer months. So you're a low user, so your discount that you have with the sewer district is based on that 500 cubic feet of water that you use through the year.
Yeah.
And that's how, and then the additional water that you use, how much is discounted? Well, they'd have to look at that on our overall population to determine what it would cost us to offer that discount.
Right, okay. What, were you gonna say something, John?
I was gonna add that there are Cleveland Heights residents who have sewer discount fees because we hold the water, we hold our stormwater.
Because of
Rain barrels?
Rain barrels and
rain
rain
barrels.
gardens, we have nothing going into the city.
right, so you got a discount for that.
Well, so we get a discount for that, which the sewer district is struggling to understand the best way to apply it, what the right amount is. This is all up in the air right now with the sewer district
I
about
see, yeah,
if, John and Peggy don't put any water into the stormwater system, why are they paying stormwater fees?
right,
So that's another one that I think would be useful in terms of data analysis, is to say how many people have stormwater credits through possibly useful rain barrels and rain gardens and that sort of thing.
This is what they do for a living. They know what to consider.
Yeah.
They know what to consider.
the district is currently giving you a credit, or you're proposing that this district give you a credit?
We currently get a credit
Okay,
That's on the stormwater fee.
on
sure,
the stormwater
Sure.
fee from
And the
the
stormwater fee is based on how much impervious surface that you have. So how big your roof is.
right,
You got a little
Right.
roof, you pay less. You got a big roof, you pay more.
Driveways.
Yeah,
Right.
driveways and what
Yeah.
have you.
okay. Yeah, so similar scenario here, okay.
Betsy,
They'd
I'm
also
gonna-
look at what we offer folks for the senior discount, and all of that goes and impact what the rate will be.
Senior discount?
Yeah, if you meet certain requirements, then you're charged less for your monthly sewer and your water and sewer. You have to have an income of less than I think it's like $30,000.
39,550 right now, cause I got the letter.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
don't know if that's adjusted gross or not, but yeah, there's something you could look into,
Mhm.
actually.
But I think we don't know what's gonna happen with climate change. We
No,
could
we
get a
don't.
summer like this year every year, and if we do, then we need to address the summer sprinkling issue, I think.
Yeah, and Director Klingscale is saying that she's hearing us, so that's a good
Yeah, she understands it, so,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry,
did you
couldn't
wanna
add
say anything about the brine, or think I can handle it?
Oh, I think you can handle it.
Alrighty. You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, they said.
Thank you, John.
Bye, John.
I did wanna go on and talk about the reports that we're getting from so many neighborhoods about their plugged sewer drains, and wondering, do we have the leaf vacuum truck already? Did it come in yet?
Yeah, it's actually out. We're actually using it.
Okay, I wonder if when the loose leaf collection is done, if that truck could be used to clean out some of these,
No, that's what we use the vac truck for.
the back truck,
The vac
truck?
the Vector truck that we use in the sewer department, that's what we use to clean out our drains,
Okay,
our catch basins. That's what you're talking about, our catch basins.
yes,
And we are looking to get an additional vac truck, because right now, the vac truck that we have, we mostly use it to keep our sewer lines clean, because that's a condition of our requirements under our consent decree, that we have to clean so many miles of sewer pipe every year. And that takes up most of our time, and we sometimes even engage, a contractor to assist us with that. So we are looking into getting an additional vac truck. So we do clean out catch basins. It's just that we have thousands of catch basins. And we do, under our contract with the county, from time to time, have them come in to assist us with cleaning catch basins. It's just that we have so many catch basins.
do you do
And if
that?
somebody calls and report it, we'll go out and clean it, because we're not looking at every catch basin on a regular basis. So if someone calls and says that the catch basin in front of my my house is full, we'll send somebody over there to clean it.
And do you have a systemic target area, like if the vac truck's gonna go out, today you're gonna go out and you're gonna clean the basins on Monte Vista, for instance,
What we'll do is when we actually, you contract that work out with the county, we'll put them in a certain area to do
Okay.
that.
Okay,
With us, as I said, our main focus is cleaning the sewer lines, and we're looking at getting that additional vac truck so that we can do more of that.
How many vac trucks do we have?
Right now, we just have one.
And how many leaf?
We just
Trucks.
got one.
Cause I thought, didn't we
We
give you
discussed
money
getting,
about
no,
give you more?
we just got money for one. We discussed the possibility of getting two, but we wanted to make sure that this new technology was what we were looking for.
Okay.
You know, so we ended up only getting one, so I only got money for one.
So you need money for another one
So
in this upcoming
that's,
budget?
yeah, that's to be seen. But that truck is out if you guys wanna, look at it.
The leaf
You know,
truck?
The leaf truck.
I've seen it,
Mhm.
it's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you did it, it makes so much sense.
It's just that like we have some areas that we would never be able to use the leaf vac for. The crews worked Saturday in the Chestnut Hills area, and there are a lot of leaves, and they hauled 71 loads of leaves out of that area in one day. We would never be able to do that with the leaf vac truck. So we would still be incorporating our current technology with the use of the leaf vac. But they've been on Mayfield, they've been on Noble, they've been
Leaf
on.
track don't gather that much?
It would never be able to gather. I mean, look at the back of it. And then imagine if an average dump truck can hold 4 loads.
Mm.
The difference with the leaf vac is that it's kind of, churning the leaves up, But
It chops them up
yeah,
basically.
in the back. But you still would not be able to move that many loads out of one area in a day.
Yeah,
The way that we do it is the best way to do it. In most cities, if not all, that have leaf vacs, they also use the technology or the process that we currently use. That's with the payloader, that's with the blowers and what have you.
Mhm.
and the sweeper comes through afterwards.
And the sweeper comes through afterwards because we get complaints, oh, they left all these leaves on the street, but the sweeper comes through behind them.
okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Betsy, thank you. I just have one last
No, that's
topic,
fine.
and it will not take long. Very interested in this de-icing process that we authorized at council on the 4th of November, where you're gonna have that equipment that you'll be using brine, it's
Brine, in
Not-
addition to our regular rock, salt.
Recognize that Mayor Sarin has just walked into the room. Thanks. I'm curious to know if they will be sharing with you what the chemicals are or what the ingredients will be that go into that composition.
It's just salt and water.
And if it gets really, really icy, is there something they can add that will help prepare for the ice coming in, or?
That's the whole purpose of the Public Works Department trying to implement the brine, is so that when it's predicted to be really icy, we'll be able to get out on those main thoroughfares and put brine down to reduce the amount of ice that accumulates.
We've still got the meeting going on.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see how that works out. We probably won't have it ready to go until January, but it will allow us to put brine down so you won't see that compaction on those main streets, because what folks don't understand is that once it gets so cold, salt is ineffective. So everybody's like, why don't you put salt down? Well, all we're doing is wasting salt and more salt going down the sewer because it's not gonna melt the snow.
It's also supposed to
So-
be more environmentally safe, right?
Of course, the brine is more environmentally safe. So we're hoping that by introducing the liquid brine, that we're able to get out ahead of a storm and start applying that. So we'll reduce the likelihood of getting that compaction on our main streets anyway.
Right.
And on our hills. So I'm excited to employ that new
Yeah,
technology.
it'll be interesting. I hope you'll give us a report on how it's going.
Oh, yeah, because I ordered less salt this year.
Yay! That was the other question, where the tanks are gonna be stored.
Currently, they're gonna be stored at the service department.
Okay.
Hopefully, we don't have to use any salt this year.
I'm telling you, with
Keep my
climate
finger-
change, who knows, you know, you
Right.
just never know. That was another reason we ordered a little less salt this
Okay.
year.
That's all I got. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
We need to
Okay.
go for another meeting. Thank you so very, very much,
You're
and I'll
welcome.
reach out to you and coordinate with Hang about meeting about that,
About the business recycling.
yes, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We're adjourning this meeting at 11:06.